Welcome back, guys. Alrighty then. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and help it grow. Otherwise, it will fail. So take a few moments to click that subscribe button and encourage me to make more videos. Thank you very much. Alright, so before we continue here, what I wanted us to do is add some pagination to our tests. But before that, I noticed a few errors, so we need to take a little step back and fix a few of these errors before we continue. So for example, if I want to switch schools here, if I click switch schools, wait a minute, I'm logged in as one of the admins, but let me log in again because I do several projects from this computer and sometimes I end up using an old session. So let me just make sure that I'm using the current session here. Okay, so if I go to schools and I click switch to, because we're on this second school here, I just want to switch, and this is what I see. So this is one of the errors that I get. And also if I go to tests and click on this test that has no questions at all, I get this error. So let's begin with this error because it looks like a simpler one, and then we can move on to the other one. So being able to solve errors is a very critical part of learning to code. So this is why I haven't checked these errors. I just saw them and then decided, okay, I'm going to solve these errors in real time. That way we see how long it actually takes to solve an error. So the most important thing is to look at what type of error do you have. Now, in case you can't figure out your error, just copy the error message and put it in Google. Now, don't put items that are very specific to your project. For example, argument 1 var must be of type countable. So in this case, you may get this line here and forget about var because it's not part of the general error message. So in here you might get something like argument must be of type countable array. This will give you something on Google minus this part here. Also, if you get this fatal error, unquote type error count up to here, because count is a general function, so you can copy that and put that in Google to see what you come up with. However, in our case, there's a line number here we are looking for. This is single test.php on line 49. So the error is type error count argument 1 must be of type countable or array. Bool given. So here it's saying a boolean was given, which is either true or false. That's what was given, but it was expecting something countable like an array. So this is what it's talking about. So it's saying it's a type error because you've given it the wrong type of information. You've given it a boolean instead of a countable array. So let's look at that line and see what it's talking about. So single test.php line 49. So let's go to single test.php line 49, which is right about here. So fair enough, we have count there. Now it's telling me that the variable, so actually this would actually yield something on Google, the whole thing, because this var is a general term. Looking at, we gave it questions, but it's talking about var, so which means this is part of the error as well. Anyway, what it's saying is that we've given it a boolean. So this is a value of false, I'm guessing, and we're supposed to give it an array. So here we expect an array, but we're given something else. So to solve this problem is we can do it this way. When we do count, we're expecting to get a number of total questions. Now, if there is, this is not an array, we're supposed to just get 0 because we know that there are no questions then. So to fix the problem, we duplicate this and we put that at 0. Okay, so that's single test.php line 50. So that way we only use the count when this is an actual array, and if it's not, it will default to 0. So easy peasy, right? So we'll say if questions, if is array, because it wants an array, so let's ask if it is indeed an array, then we can do this. Otherwise, if it's not an array, we'll just skip this and this will be equals to 0. So that will work, I'm sure. So if I now refresh the page, I get this. Hadn't we solved this error before though? I have no idea why I had to solve it again, but I think we had solved it. But in any case, in case you're having that error as well, this should solve that problem. Okay, so one error solved. Let's go back to our schools and see what that error is as well. So let's click on switch, and this is what I get. So there's a syntax error somewhere. Now, syntax errors are the easiest errors to deal with because it just means you have typed something wrongly. Fatal error means the program couldn't continue, so it had to halt. So uncaught PDO exception. So this has to do with PDO, which means it has something to do with the reading of the database, and then syntax error, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you want to see this more clearly, you could put some pre-tags so that the stack trace can be more clear as to what is going on. So here we're on the switch school controller, right? So we can go to switch school, and right at the top here, I just want to echo some pre-tags, and just the opening pre-tag should suffice because we don't really want to display anything. Okay, so this looks much cleaner. As you can see, there's a stack trace here, which is very good. Now, the way the stack trace works is it shows you step by step what is being, where it has been, which functions were activated, which classes were activated, and where everything stopped. So you have to start from the bottom here. This is the main function. So we start with app construct, then we'll go to switch school index, which is the controller, and then we went to switch school.php. We went through the auth switch school, we went through the model update, database query, and then finally there was a wrong execution here. So from this we can see that when we try to query a database, and this is what is inside that query, something happened. So the problem must be with the query. So let's look here. It says you have an error in your SQL syntax. Okay, so the syntax error is in the query itself. Of course, it says that here. So check the manual to see. So, excuse me. So the problem is near where ID is equal to 1, somewhere here. So right here. That's where the problem, it found a problem. Okay, so to fix this, let's try and echo out the query, the whole query, so we can see it, that this is trying to access. So we have to go to switch school because this is the function where things are happening. This is switch school.php on line 13. So let's check it out, line 13, which is here. So it did get to this point, and trying to run this is what caused a problem, because we can see, oh, so it goes to model update, and that's where the error is. So this is what produces the query to take to the database. The reason why I'm not going to the database is because this database this database function gets all kinds of queries, and if it was the problem, then none of the queries would have run. But here we are only having problem with a very specific query, which means it's not really in the database query function, but a function before, the one that creates the query that we want to run here. So this is in the model update. Okay, so let's follow this up, auth switch school. Let's go to the auth query, and then let's go to switch school. Where is switch school? Right there. And then in here, we're supposed to run the, what did we run? The update function. So right here where we're running the update function is where we have problems. So the query that's being produced here has an issue. Okay, so let's go and see what that issue is. Now this is inside model.php, so let's go in the core and model update. So where is update? Right here. So before we run the query, where are we running the query? In model update line 69. Let's see that. Oh, not here. Actually, the query is on line that's in the model.php line 179. So 179, where are we? Right here. Okay, so we return the result of this query here. Now there is a query that we are giving here, so good. All we need to do is echo it. So let's do that. Or let's use the show function, since it has some nice pre-tags there that will help us see it more clearly. So refresh, and that's our query. So update users set, and then it's empty, where ID is equal to ID. So what are we setting here? This is empty. Why is that? So update set string. So this string is empty here. Okay, cool. So why is that? So we start from here, the string is empty, and then we go through for each data and then add items to it. So probably this data is empty. That's why this is empty as well. Now, this shouldn't work here. To prevent this, I think what we should do is, first of all, we ask if this is set, if this has items. If not, then we return false, I think, which is what we're already doing. So let me try and show what's inside there. So there's ID is equal to 1. So there is something there, which is cool. So let's see what's really happening here. String should not be empty. Okay, so let me do show right here to see if something happened after the loop. So it's empty, nothing. Okay, so data as key value, and then we put a key and then our value. So why is it empty? That's very weird. Let me paste in here and see if at any point it becomes something, and still there's nothing. Okay, so let me copy the data while inside the loop. Okay, now that is strange. What's happening here? This is weird. So it seems like data is being overwritten somehow. So let me move it outside here first. We need to find out exactly where this is happening. Okay, so it's an empty array there. So it seems this ID that I had was only being added after this. Okay, but it came in with nothing. Okay, so that's a problem. So it means the problem isn't here, it's just data is coming in empty. So let's come back to where we came from, which is switch schools, and this has to have been something, because if I come back to auth, where is auth? Yes, there it is. Switch school, we put that ID, and then we are running things here, and so we get the ID and the array. All right, so this array is empty. So let me copy this, but we did add something here, so let's test. Oh, sorry about that, I don't know what I just did there. So echo. Okay, so there's a school ID in there. That's good, which means we did pass something here So this is getting weird now. Now, if I go back to update inside model, I should have something there, but why don't I? Since we are passing the data immediately. Okay, so there is something there. So what's going on? So let's move this one step down up to there just to see if something happens here. Okay, so let's refresh, and there we go. So we came in with some data and then we left with none. So here this says remove unwanted columns. So it means allowed columns is not part of school ID. That's why it was removed from this list. Okay, so we got that there. So let's look at allowed columns here from the what model is this? What model are we using? That's the, where are we? Auth. We're using the user model. Okay, so let's make sure school ID is accepted as one of those columns. So back here to user model, where are we? There we go. So inside allowed columns, we see that we don't actually have school ID. So let's just add it there as part of allowed columns. I don't know how this whole thing was working previously, but yeah, there we go. So we managed to switch schools. So I did all this just to show you the debugging process step by step, so that in case you have a problem, you are able to follow things along. Now it's very important to remember that this process could take hours, sometimes even days. You need to have the patience to sit there and go through all this. That's what makes a good programmer. So if you're able to fix your errors, no matter how long it takes, then trust me, you're going to be a good programmer. So that's just the key right there. But I forgot, I think I added a few things in there that I did not remove. Wait a minute, switch schools, okay, user update. Was it in the auth? This is the auth. Oops. I think it's in the controller, switch school. Ah, right there. Okay, so let's remove that echo. Alrighty then, so it seems we have sorted those problems. So let's switch back to our own school, switch to the other one, and good. So everything is working now. All right, so let's go to the next video where we can now add pagination to our tests.